IT Insights InsurTalk. Interviews with insurance leaders about what matters to the industry.
Hi, my name is Eva Banaś and I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of IT Insights InsurTalk series by Future Processing, straight from London. Recent statistics say that 41% of insurance customers are likely to switch their providers due to dissatisfaction with their provider's technical capabilities. It definitely poses a challenge to the insurers how to maintain the customers loyal and how to make sure that customers' experience is at the highest level. And today, my guest is Bill Brower from Solera Inc., Vice President Industry Relations, control loss expert and claim consultant. Great to have you here, Bill.
Very good to be with you. Thank you for having me today.
What brings you to London today?
So I'm here for the InsurTech Europe event. Look forward to participating in a couple of panels, and my company Solera has a number of activities scheduled, so I'm looking forward to an exciting week.
Sounds like a plan, I guess.
Yes. And by the way, my brother is in town, so we rarely get to see one another, so we're going to get a chance to get together this week while we're both in London.
This kind of opportunities don't come by often.
Not often. You have to take advantage of it, for sure.
Definitely. And in terms of your insurance experience, what's your story? How did it all start?
My story is a bit interesting in that my father owned an auto collision repair shop, and so when I was growing up as a teenager, I was learning to repair cars and bang out fenders and paint cars and that sort of thing, and from there I learned about estimating damages and began to meet some of the professionals who do that for a living, and that one thing led to another, and I became an appraiser. So. But then I spent about 28 years between two insurance companies, Nationwide Insurance Company and Liberty Mutual Insurance Company, leading claims, sort of moving through a number of different roles, but really learning the business, and it was great training for me. And then more recently, I joined LexisNexis Risk Solutions, which is a company that provides data for insurance companies, whether that be for underwriting or for claims. And I led the claims group there, and then most recently to Solera, where I am an industry relations leader, really helping to tell the Solera story, but also helping to grow the Solera business.
Mm-hmm. And what's the Solera story actually?
So yes, thank you for asking. So Solera, we operate in four key areas. One is vehicle claims, or insurance claims, we should say. So we service insurance companies across the world. We are the largest provider of estimatic solutions, and solutions really geared to insurance claims. Secondly, we're in the repair space, or vehicle repair. So body shops, mechanical shops, many of them use our software to help them, whether it's damage assessment or to make sure the car is repaired properly and things like that. And then we have a third group. We call it vehicle solutions, but it's primarily our dealership space, where we service auto dealerships with software, end-to-end software to run that business. And I should have mentioned also in that category, we have an underwriting company as well, where we provide data for risk assessment. And then finally, we have a fleet group, which handles the trucking business, the heavy equipment or heavy trucking industry, where we can provide end-to-end solutions for a company that's in the trucking business. So it's an exciting place to be, and growing rapidly. We are operating in over 100 countries today, and one of the faster growing companies in this space.
Good to hear that. It seems like you have a mission to complete.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
And I also heard that recently you yourself were involved in claim process as a customer. Could you tell us a bit more about it?
Oh yes, we were talking
Yes.
Just before
It's quite a nice
we
story.
began. So like I said, I've been in the industry many years. My daughter, who's a college student, got into her first accident recently. Fortunately, she was fine.
That's good to hear.
But of course, Dad, having been in the business for so many years, took care of the claim for her, and so the way the claim processed, I called my insurance company and decided to go to a direct repair shop, and of course I knew the shops and picked the shop My experience in 2022 was no different than it would have been in 1995. And I say that because, there were many handoffs. There was no AI being used to help process the damage estimate. There were multiple trips to the shop to get the claim processed, multiple conversations. And so the body shop did a great job. My insurance company did a great job. But it was surprising to see that the process hasn't changed in all those years.
That's saddening, considering all the acceleration we've seen so far over the years, especially recently with COVID in the background.
Exactly. During COVID, we were really forced to move to digital, right? So when the COVID began and, customers really were concerned about meeting anyone in person and really didn't want the insurance companies didn't want to put their personnel at risk by sending them out. The entire industry moved to digital, especially on the damage assessment, what we call virtual estimating. That went from maybe 10% of claims to almost 100% of claims, it seemed, overnight. And it worked. I mean, the interesting thing was that customers loved it when it happened. They were getting their estimates faster. They were able to get the cars in the shop more quickly. Now, were there learnings? Yes. Were there some, flaws that we had to work through? Yes. But that really will go down in history as the tipping point for digital claims and virtual claims, because when COVID hit, that's when the consumer decided they wanted the digital experience. They wanted self-service. And instead of insurance companies trying to push that, insurance companies were pulling it. And that will go down as the tipping point for claims automation.
3 years have passed. Where are we with it now?
So we've made great progress. As I mentioned, consumers are really adopting of technology. I have 2 college-age kids, and they both use the smartphone every day, but really don't want to talk on it, right? And a lot of consumers are looking for a way to conduct business digitally today. If it's shopping, most people don't go to the shopping mall as often as they used to. I know my wife seems to order packages mostly online now, and so there's someone dropping something almost every day. But it's so convenient, and so when you think about how customers feel about the insurance industry, they're comparing the insurance industry with their Amazon experience or their experience with some of the other digital platforms that have really advanced, and they're asking their insurance companies, why can't I get this type of service? I think you mentioned that in the opening, the 41% that suggested they might change insurance companies if they didn't get high quality experience and self-service type experience. And I'll add one other thing. It's interesting to me. I've noticed this. I don't shop much, but when I do, it's like a Home Depot where we are, or a home supply company. And I have noticed that when I go into our local Home Depot, they still have people to register, and then they have several registers that are self-service. The self-service is where most of the customers are, and very few go to the personal one anymore. They just prefer to go check out on their own. So I just feel comfortable that customers, not that they don't want the human touch, but we've become so conditioned to taking advantage of digital that we expect it. And that's why the insurance industry really has to move faster in getting our capabilities up to par for the customer.
Especially that we observe the digitalization in every single sphere of our life. Why not
Absolutely.
Insurance as well? You mentioned the self-service and that the customer can actually input all the data by themselves into the app. I was wondering how to mitigate the risk, such as looking at my behavior and my habits. The more info I have to put into this kind of services, the less happy I am.
Yes.
And I'm curious, how do you approach that? Because you do need to, the client needs to input some information, definitely.
Some information, but really the key, I have developed a demo that I use with some of our insurance customers to help them visualize what a touchless claim could look like. The number one thing that you need when it comes to reporting a claim in a digital process is you need to avoid typing. Think of it like you would think of an Amazon experience. when you go to Amazon and you buy something, you're really not typing anything. There's a couple of choices. You pick the one you want. Maybe you'll go through a couple of cycles of that, and it's very customer friendly. So the way I envision the future claim, and I've done some papers on the future of claims, is that what I'm envisioning is that in the future, when a person has an accident, they'll have a QR code on their, maybe on their insurance card. I keep mine in my glove box and in my car. Most people probably do. So having that QR code, there's a lot of information that can be attached there. So if I have an accident, I can hover over that QR code and it'll identify me. And then, but the key is really being able to bring data in that I don't have to type in. And so with the QR code, the way I describe this in my demo is the customer's prompted to take a picture of, say, the license plate of the vehicles involved, their car and any other car involved. There are companies that provide data from the license plate on the who owns the car, where the car is garaged, who insures the car, that sort of thing. A lot of that is what makes up the questions that are asked at time of claim. And so getting this information pre-fed into the app then allows the questions that the customer needs to answer. You know, would you like to select a repair shop today? And would you like to get a rental car? Those types of questions, not so many questions that are administrative that can be pre-filled into the app. When I talk about touchless claims, I'm not talking about claims involving people being injured. Those are situations where conversations need to take place. They're much more complex. What I'm speaking of are a large percentage of claims. Over half the auto claims, for example, are vehicle damage only claims and not high severity type claims. Those are the type claims that if the customer is interested in processing that claim digitally without calling or meeting with someone in person, technology will power it.
How do you see the role and the place and the current state of AI in claims? Because it is a buzzword for, I think quite a lot of industries nowadays, but it has proved to be very important, even crucial in claims processes. And I'm curious, like, where we are with this one.
So I think of AI as more of providing more capability for the claims professional. We will always need claims professionals. Going back to my story, I mentioned that I was in claims many years ago, even before any of the software solutions were available. One of the things that I was always puzzled by was there were many handoffs. So there would be, someone who takes the loss report. Sometimes there was even two people back then. It might have been the agent and the call center. And then there might be an adjuster, and then maybe an appraiser, and then maybe there might even be another person involved before the claim was paid. And so as a customer, they were talking to lots of people. So even today, we have all this technology, and what oftentimes I hear from customers when they have a claim is that they do talk to many people even today. So when I think of AI, it is eliminating those handoffs. We're still going to need someone, that can make sure this claim is handled, whether they're speaking with the customer or they're monitoring it. But take care of some of the task work with AI to take away some of that friction of calling back and forth. Because when you're calling an insurance company to talk to your adjuster, those adjusters are so busy, you're usually not going to talk with the same person the next time. So the frustration the customer has is I'm telling my story again and again and again. And so what I see with AI, it's really streamlining the process. It's taking the friction out, smoothing the claim out, but not eliminating the claims roles. There's so many claims there today. If we could take some of this friction away, we would simply handle the more complex claims faster.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And generally, when you look at the customers' behavior, they want to do everything automatically using AI, using all those auto-filled inputs, etc. But on the other hand, they do need to feel that there is a human being.
Absolutely. I've been involved in some surveys over the years. I've done, like I said, some surveys and some studies around the future of claims. And one of the things that I've noticed is that when you survey individuals and you say, you know, how do you feel about full digital application, the scores have gone up quite a bit. But when you layer in, how do you feel about that same digital when you have a person that you can talk to if you get stuck
Yes.
or if you need assistance? Then
This is
the
the customer
adoption
experience,
goes
right?
extremely high.
Yeah.
It does. And I think, to me, where the industry's at today is really how do we bring about a hybrid type of solution where young people like my kids are both college kids. They would rather do everything digitally, start to finish, and not talk with anyone, right? But personally, I would like to speak with someone in the claims process. And so if you have the ability for both to work, then maybe I can report my claim with the QR code and an app, and that's quick, and I can get my car into the body shop and get things started. But perhaps I do want to talk with a claims person about what's the impact to my premium, my cost, or other questions that I might have about the claims process. I could still do that, but the things that need to happen quickly with the power of AI and power of digital.
I think like as human beings, no matter how much automated and digital things are, we still need the contact with another human being.
Yes.
The pandemic
Yes.
actually really proved that quite strongly,
Yes.
I believe.
Exactly. And we saw that, with COVID, there were certain services that maybe you were doing digitally. With some of those companies, they were having a courtesy call to the customer to make sure things were handled properly. And some of that I think was more of a learning, because we were all moving to digital so quickly. We wanted a checkpoint to say, did this go as well as it could have, and could we improve on anything? And I think in where we are in the insurance space, that's why I say this is such an exciting time to be in claims. We're really at a point where we need to do more test and learn. And one of the reasons that I think the industry has been a bit slower of fully adopting is that usually an insurance company will want to make a change, and they want to make the change across their entire company. When I'm meeting with insurance leaders, my recommendation is find a way to carve off a small area, one office, one market, and try some of these digital solutions in that controlled environment. It should be with real, actual claims, because that's how you get the buy-in. I have seen companies in the past create a lab where they have fictitious claims and they do this, but the challenge I find in those situations is that the actual employees, the adjusters, they don't buy into it. They feel like that was a lab and it was too controlled and it's not real life. So that's why I think it's always important if a carrier can create a space where they can try this with a group of customers and do some heavy testing to see what's working, what's not. That's how they dial it in to get that right combination of digital when you need it, people when you need it.
What you have just described kind of relates to one of your leadership pieces I read. Let me cite that. You mentioned that the problem is about technology being only a component of a successful touchless claims implementation. It does kind of correlate with what you're saying, to work like on the real case, not fictitious ones, and to find a solution that way.
We as an insurance, I consider myself in the insurance industry, having been in the business so long, we have a tendency to bolt on technology to legacy processes. And, sometimes that works, but a lot of times that creates more problems. You try to put some automation in with something that wasn't built for automation. That could be a recipe for a lot of missteps. So what I look for, and that's why I like this kind of lab opportunity, or this walling off a group of customers that you can try some things with, is because you really want to step back and you want to start with the customer in the center of the situation, the claim. Forget about all the processes that take place, traditionally, and then think about, okay, what's the best and the quickest and the process that would be most customer friendly, and can it be powered through automation, through digital, and you wrap that digital process around the customer. that's where this works. If it is simply we've had a process for 40 years and now we're going to add a automated step, that may not work. And that because one of the things I did hear from recently from a J.D. Power study, they talk about customer service and the move to digital. And while customers over the years each year have been favoring digital more and more, in this last study they produced, they said that there was a bit of backlash, that it wasn't working as well as they expected. And I believe that a big part of that is because we bolted it on rather than just simply redesigning the claims process with the customer in the center and technology driving the experience.
And also regarding touchless claims, it is a solution that definitely would help me in a few situations on the road. But I was wondering, because it is a USA-based solution, if we would like to scale it to other regions, would there be some legislation issues or regulatory issues to take care about? Because my husband actually works with similar things in insurance, actually handles claims. And when I mentioned this solution to him, he's like, oh no, in Poland it wouldn't work. So yeah, I'm curious, like what kind of risks we would have to tackle here.
Regarding the regulations, yes, that's definitely something that, when we talk with a customer, when we work with a customer, that's one of the things we want to research is, are there any limitations in terms of the technology in your market? And by the way, we are using a lot of this AI and full automation is used outside the U.S. in multiple countries. But there are areas where usually it's not an entire country. Usually it is a state or maybe a province in some countries that may have certain requirements around, for example, how a vehicle appraisal is written, an estimate. Some may require that the car be personally inspected with an appraiser if the damages are, if they exceed a certain dollar amount. And in those situations, we just have to be mindful of it and make sure that we're, the company that we're helping the company make sure they're meeting the standards that are set in that market. But what I'm finding is, and I can draw on my experience from the U.S. market. In the U.S., we have 50 states, right? And the thing that the U.S. carriers will tell you, that can be a bit of a challenge because that means every state manages their insurance. They have their own insurance departments, and they manage how claims can be processed and when rates can be increased and things like that. And so what I have found over the years in the U.S. is that some markets have laws that were on the books 30 years ago. That talked about a personal inspection. 30 years ago, that was the only way to get the damage estimate completed. But what I have seen in the states is that most of the states have updated the regulations, adopting AI capabilities, and they tend to look at it from the consumer standpoint. They're really not looking at it from the insurance company standpoint. They're saying, okay, how are customers being served, and what would make that experience better? And as long as the insurance industry can show that these solutions are providing a better customer experience, I believe states and countries will make the changes in the laws. But we're not getting a lot of resistance today. Most of our markets are not too strict when it comes to, as long as it's to the benefit of the customer, they're adopting this in most markets.
That's good news for us all, especially for me.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill, for this interview, for your time. And before we move on, before we finish with the interview, one question: what will you be eating today in London?
Oh, I don't know. I will find something that's a local dish that I'll need to try out, of course. But I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing my brother again. So it should be a fun evening. Enjoy your evening then. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, our audience, for listening to our InsurTalk series by Future Processing.
Visit us at itinsights.tech and dive into our podcasts, webinars, and events.